Welcome into DNVR Buffs postgame. Tough game today. The Buffs lost. I'm sure all you guys know that, but we're going to talk through it here and hopefully feel better when we're done talking than we do right now. We'll see. I'm Henry Chisholm. Right here is Ryan Koenigsberg, who you guys know well, but we have a special guest today. Tyler Ziskin of the Free Ballin' Pod and like everything else Buffs related is also here. And we'll get Ben Gerding later. How's it going, Tyler?
It would be very me to show up on a pod that we lost in a big game.
It kind of is. It definitely is. Let's start with the biggest takeaways. Let's just jump straight into this. Ryan, you want to go first? What's your biggest takeaway?
Man, biggest takeaway. We'll have a chat here, but this could easily be the only takeaway. The Buffs lost Nate Landman. He was the heart and soul of the defense. He's really the heart and soul of the team, and everything changed. And I mean instantly everything changed. Utah knew exactly what to do. They ran the ball right at where he should be, where he would be, where he'd be stuffing them, and where he was stuffing them in the first half. And, you know, there's a lot of decisions you can go into, and the fumble at the end of the first half, but that's a 3-point swing. When you can't stop them at all on defense because you don't have your captain out there, your play caller, everything out. Nate Landman was everything to this defense. And sure, should you be able to overcome the loss of a player? Yes. The Buffs aren't in that position. They're not ready for that, and they certainly weren't today.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree. Nate Landman is just one player, but for this program, he's more than that, right? I mean, we don't have 5-star talent. You lose one of the best linebackers in the country, it makes a bigger impact on us than it would for almost any other program out there. So to me, yes, we did come out and score pretty quickly in the second half to build some momentum, but we talked about it at halftime. They're going to go right at our linebackers. Are we going to be able to stop it? And unfortunately, the guys that came in just aren't, they're not Nate Landman. It's not really, you can't put it any other way.
It just sucks to see it go down like this. For this to be the reason that they lose this game that we've been talking about all season, like we got to get to this point, get the win, and then you're in, or at least there was a chance to be in, and now that chance is slim. And maybe that's worth talking about right now, but the Buffs still are alive for the Pac-12 championship. They could make it in. They need one more cancellation today. The tiebreakers are kind of weird right now. I think the next tiebreaker they get to that isn't a tie is college football playoff ranking. And right now, Colorado's ranked, Washington isn't. And if it is what decides it, and they don't say, like, well, the rankings come out Monday or Tuesday, and it's just chaos. Well, it looks like the Buffs would get in.
I think I speak for all Buffs fans right now when I say it's hard to think about that and hard to imagine going up against USC, who is a superiorly talented team, without our guy. Our guy, you can, with Nate Landman on the defense, you can talk yourself into it. You could say, man, if Nate shows up and plugs up the middle, and if Carson Wells gets some sacks, and if they're able to create pressure and create turnovers, you can start talking yourself into the Buffs beating USC. I'm not saying it couldn't happen. It's hard to think about right now because you just watched Utah, just smack us around for the entire second half after Nate went out, and so you obviously want that opportunity. You want it for the kids who have laid it all out on the line all year. They've done an incredible job of handling COVID, better than most Pac-12 schools. Carl Durrell, you want it for him as he goes on the recruiting trail. I took my team to the Pac-12 championship in year one. You want all those things. At the same time, it's just it's not where I want to go. It's tough to take yourself there right now.
Yeah, it's a tough pill to swallow. I mean, I think you couldn't really be too disappointed if it doesn't work out at this point, right? I mean, we had our opportunity and we didn't get it done. I mean, I think they're obviously, again, Landman, that's a big part of it. But when you have an opportunity to go out there and win and make some noise and create some difficulty for the conference, right, and you fall flat on your face. I mean, it was 28-0, right?
Yeah.
After the touchdown to start the second half. So obviously not a good showing down the stretch. So it would be really difficult to argue that we got screwed out of any of this.
Yeah.
No one can say that at this point. Obviously you would have, if you had the opportunity to play USC, everything could be different. Especially when Nate Landman was healthy. And so that's, I guess, the case you could make. But you're right. You had an opportunity. If you went out there and balled out today, everyone would be, across the country. People would be saying you have to let Colorado have a chance, and you just can't make that case anymore. Like I said, it's especially hard to make that case for a Colorado team that doesn't have probably their best player.
Yep,
Jarek Broussard, or Nate Landman.
Yeah, and it seriously just sucks to see Nate Landman have to go through this, and that is like the biggest takeaway, I think. But one discussion that's kind of been bubbling up on Twitter and other places is Darren Chiaverini's play calling. And I think that might be worth digging into right now and giving some time to, rather than waiting for it to show up in the questions. And we should say that right now. If you guys have any questions, throw them in the chat. We'll get to all those toward the end of the show, but keep those coming. But yeah, so Darren Chiaverini, what'd you guys think of the game he called today?
I didn't like it down the stretch. And I mean, I don't think anyone liked it early.
Yeah.
8 straight passes
Yeah.
with Jarek Broussard on the team is tough to swallow. To me, down the stretch, I mean, Neuer comes back into the game. You immediately run a play on a rollout after he's hurt. There's only one potential option there on a downfield throw. That's just not a high percentage play. You watched Lytle kind of, matriculate, for lack of a better term, his way down the field. They were running the ball well.
He did his job.
Using the QB action. To me, you go in there and immediately change your game plan. Once again, classic Chev. He goes away from what's been working for the entirety of the drive, and it ends up stalling out.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's not the main reason they lost, but he wasn't terrible, wasn't perfect today. And that's going to happen with coaches. Obviously you want to see them have their best game in the biggest game. And I think the biggest frustration I had was the start. It's very clear that Chev believes that you should use the pass to set up the run. And I just don't think that's the way it should be with this football team. And I think that, he needed to change his philosophy on that. This team is a run-first football team. And when you're a run-first football team, you should quite literally run first. And I think you should use the run to set up the pass. With that being said, Sam Neuer early in the game was freaking awesome.
Yep.
Not on those first 2 drives, but that helped him, get going. He was throwing darts. He was throwing missiles. It was really awesome to see. Hopefully he gets healthy for whatever this last game the Buffs are going to play is, because you'd hate to not have him out there, especially when you're definitely not going to have Nate Landman out there. So I just didn't like that start. I mean, open with a play action pass, okay, I can get behind that. Run the ball on second down. You're one of your first 2 plays should be a run, not your 9th play.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. To me, just to play devil's advocate here, the first 2 plays were passes to Levante Chenault. They pick up a first down. And from there, they call another pass play, and then second down, they do the read option, and Sam keeps it, and then third down, they don't pick it up on a passing play. It's ugly, but at the same time, when you look through, the first couple of plays worked, and they did get that first down. The problem was that, I guess to me, that next first down is where you run it, but at that point, you are kind of cooking a little bit.
I mean, it's a little bit of perception, though, right? I mean, you just had a guy run for 300 yards.
There is that.
you can't give him a ball on a handoff in his 9th play of the game. That's just, I understand what you're trying to do, and I'm sure they were, Utah was stacked up against the run. They were expecting us to run it a ton, but still. I mean, you have to go out there and let your best men go against their best men and see if you come out on top or not.
I agree. And I think that was a great way to put it. Just go at him and see who comes out on top. And you brought up that play action. The first play, Sam Neuer's back in the game. That's the opposite of what they did. They said, you guys know that we're going to run right here because the quarterback is banged up. He hurt his shoulder. He's coming right back into the game. Of course he's going to be handing the ball off. And so they got a little bit too cute. And instead of saying, you guys can see it coming and we can just run right over you, the rollout and the throw, and it doesn't work, and all of a sudden you're 2nd and 10 and just in a tough spot.
I'm curious if Sam Neuer had any throws on the sideline before he came in. It looked like he ran directly out of the locker room and onto the field. And again, he's your guy, so you want to get him out there. But it was very, very obvious that he was compromised from a throwing perspective. And again, I would have liked to know that before I ran him back out there on the field and called a pass play on the first play, especially since Tyler Lytle, a completion,
he did his job.
Play. I just, you weren't in a desperate position to need to get him in there. It was first down, right? You just got a first down. So I'm just saying, maybe you have Sam Neuer throw 3 passes on the sideline and at least know that he's a little bit compromised. Let Tyler Lytle hand it off to Jarek Broussard on 1st and 10, and then see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little Monday morning quarterback.
Definitely.
Right? We saw the results. But, Sam Neuer's your guy. So if he's healthy enough to go out there and they let him go back on the field, he's going to come back out, even though Lytle was in a little bit of a rhythm. I know it looks bad in hindsight because we immediately stalled out after that.
Yeah.
But I understand where the staff is coming from. We made a choice to go with Sam Neuer to be your starting quarterback. If he's available to play, you're going to put him back out there.
I do agree.
Yep. What else do you guys have for takeaways?
Brendan Rice.
That's a good one.
I mean, that's
a good one.
He's here. He's arrived. that was awesome. The punt return was electric. It was pretty easy. Only had to juke out the punter.
Easy if you're fast.
But yeah, exactly. Not easy for me or you or
No,
Tyler.
no.
Easy for him. He just kind of ran around everyone and juked the worst player on the field. But still, that kind of got him going. And then you get the ball back to him, and he makes another electric play. And then I get to another criticism of Darren Chiaverini, which is he was targeted, I believe, one more time in the game. It was the interception that Sam Neuer threw, which in hindsight, that one really hurt. But again, I just would have liked to see, get him the ball in space at least one more time to see what happens, because clearly he has a lot better footing than all the people that he's running around. So would have liked him to get the ball a little more, but forget that. Brendan Rice has arrived, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, hard not to be excited about his potential. I think as soon as you saw him come into this program, there was big expectations there. A guy with a big body is a really good athlete. I mean, you see people question his speed a little bit, kind of the same way they question Laviska Shenault, and we saw how that worked out in college as well. So I walked out there, and kind of interesting. Shenault scored. I think his first career touchdown was on a punt return, in quotations, right? It was off a fumble.
Yes. Isaiah Oliver fumbled a punt return, and Viska picked it up and took it to the house.
Yeah, so I had a little bit of a flashback for that. I thought Vontae Shenault, kind of along the same lines, was really good today. He's been good for the last 3 or 4 weeks, in my opinion. They didn't use him a ton down the stretch either.
No.
I'll have to go back and watch the film, but it didn't really look like we went to our horses down the stretch of the game, which I don't love.
The last big takeaway I have is I feel like this opened a window, and I told you guys that I don't like this because I don't want it for Nate, but I do feel like this opened a potential window for Nate Landman to come back. And obviously from a purely selfish Buffs perspective, if you're looking through it through that lens, you clearly want him to come back next year. Tyler, you said, you think he's a day 3 pick. I thought maybe, he was working his way up into the conversation to be a day 2 pick. I don't know if that's, that was necessarily going to happen. But now coming off an injury, likely depending on the severity, we don't know that yet, but looks like it'll probably be a pretty severe recovery for him, and it probably would take him out of all of the, the Senior Bowl, the Combine, all of that stuff where he could really help himself. And so I don't want that to happen to him. I want him to go to the NFL and secure the bag. But
which is good for the Buffs too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it does feel like this may have opened the door for him to say, all right, well, I'm going to go back and prove myself again.
Yeah, I'd start off by saying I'd still be surprised if he came back.
So would I.
So we'll see how it plays out. But I tend to agree. I mean, he's kind of he's a victim of the game changing, right? 15 years ago, he would probably be a first-round pick.
Yeah.
It's not really on him that he's not a 3-down backer in the NFL. There's just a lot of passing, and that's just not his strength. Inside linebackers in general don't go high in the draft, so even the elite ones that are 3-tool players aren't going to get there, from what we've seen in years past. So, yeah, it's a little bit like the Dinwiddie situation. I know it's a different sport, obviously, but coming off injury, he was a borderline first-round pick, lottery pick type of player. Ended up going in the second round. His career has worked out for him just fine, so hopefully that happens to Nate too. But I would argue the combine and all that maybe won't hurt Nate as much. He's not an athlete. He's not going to go in and put up gaudy numbers in all the drills.
Senior Bowl, though.
Senior Bowl, right. I mean, you want to see him on the field. That's where he makes his mark. He's one of those guys, you're going to see his numbers, you're going to say, okay, how does he really translate? But then you put him on the field and he produces. So to me, I'm not sure that's as big of a deal. It's just tough. I mean, it's tough to come off from injury when you're already a guy that has questions athleticism-wise at the next level.
Yeah, and I mean, seeing what happened to the Buffs defense today without him certainly does not hurt his case to go to the NFL.
No, I mean, geez.
Yeah,
given the Heisman, for all I care. I remember when Peyton Manning got injured the year before he came to the Broncos, and they went 1-15 or something without him. And it was like, just give him MVP. Like, he didn't even play. Just give him MVP. Like, he's clearly the most valuable player. He gets them the number 1 seed every year, and then they lose him, and they're 1-15. That's how I feel about Nate Landman. Just give him the Heisman. He's clearly the most important player to an undefeated team.
Yeah, I saw someone on Twitter said this was, as if there's a Buckus Award statement game, him getting hurt might be the one. I mean, the results were so dramatically different on the field with him gone.
And it just shows like how many different things he does. Like obviously it's like the tackles for loss and the sacks and like that kind of stuff that you notice when you're watching the game. But he's also the one who does all the alignments, make sure everybody's in the right spot. And when you start to
there a lot,
they were not. And he's the guy who's supposed to be like relaying the calls and all that kind of stuff. And when that piece of your defense is gone, it's hard to recover. It's hard to recover.
It reminds you of the intricacies of football, right? I mean, it can literally take one player being in the wrong spot to go, you have a 2-yard loss or a touchdown. I mean, it's especially defensively, alignment is so huge in the results of a game.
It's everything. I mean, you hear in college, you hear this infinitely more
There you go.
than you hear it in the NFL, because it doesn't really happen in the NFL, but the term run fits. It's literally about fitting your players to the way that they're going to run the ball. It doesn't happen in the NFL because they just know it and they fit it almost every time. In the college game, you saw it time after time after time. Like you rarely see this Buffs defense when Nate Landman's on the field get gashed for a long run, and it's because they're fitting it, and there's just there's not giant gaps to run through. So it's frustrating.
I mean, it talks about where this program is right now. I mean, we're improving our depth, I think, overall, but there's still a long ways to go. I mean, Alabama loses their best linebacker. A 5-star comes in.
You don't even notice.
Yeah. And that's, we're not going to be Alabama. I get that. But there still is work to be done in terms of getting quality depth into the program.
Linebacker, just on its own, has been a problem for a while in terms of recruiting depth.
Right, depth, yeah.
Obviously, you have Nate and Carson on the outside, but this team, every time Nate Landman went out he thankfully he didn't have any targeting issues this year. But remember, in the past couple of years, Nate Landman targeting, oh boy, it's gonna be a journey from here on out. And so that's something that they definitely want to work on. And hopefully, just the value of Nate Landman just shows the staff like we should make recruiting linebacker a big priority for this team moving forward.
Yeah, I've got one more takeaway before we move along. They can make the deep ball work. Like when Sam Neuer starts throwing downfield, I mean, we haven't seen it a whole lot up to this point, but today they were hitting on some of those shots. You saw a bunch of different receivers make plays downfield. How real is what we saw? And like, just assuming Sam Neuer comes back next year, do we expect to see that going forward?
I think it's definitely a building block game for him from that perspective. I don't know how it got cold out and the ball started popping off Sam Neuer's hand more. Like, what is with that? Like, usually you expect it to get cold, and like Steven Montez in the cold, it was like off a cliff. And, it just didn't feel like he had a good grip on the ball, and the ball wasn't popping, and he's kind of just lobbing it, felt like, all the time. Sam Neuer got out there, and it looked like he got a power boost from the snow. Just absolute lasers. The throw to Maurice Bell in the corner, I do not feel I'm exaggerating when I say that's about as good of a throw as you can ever see from a college quarterback.
Yeah.
And so it was just absolutely launching off of his hand, and that's definitely something you can build on, and hopefully he plays next week, and you can build on that a little bit more. But I think that should be a part of the offense next season if he's back.
Yeah, I mean, I think it shows that him confident, he's capable of making any throw. Now, do I want deep balls to be a big part of our offense? No, but you have to absolutely prove that you can do it. I mean, it makes you a lot easier to defend if you can't at any point throw the ball deep. So you have to at least do it multiple times a game. I mean, you obviously want to hit one of those because it does stretch out the defense, but you have to at least attempt it multiple times for sure.
If you have Jarek Broussard running and this offensive line blocking and all of that stuff, you should be able to get safeties into the box, and then you should be able to get single coverage on the Brendan Rices and the Daniel Ariases and the whoever else out there, the Vontae Chenaults. Like, you have the talent to be able to get downfield with your receivers. You have the game. You should have the game plan to be able to get those guys open. You'd love to see Sam start hitting those.
Yep.
Just to circle back really quick, sorry. The offense, Nate Landman going out doesn't really affect the offense. I mean, it does to some degree, but it does, the way that Sam played in the first half, there was a big difference in the second half with the results, right? So somewhere along the way, whether you want to call it Chev, whether you want to call it the players on the field, something flipped in the second half. Obviously Nate's injury can affect you mentally too, but the switch went off at some point in the second half for sure.
Yeah, and the offense on the other side of things didn't help the defense without Nate Landman much at all. I think the Buffs had the ball for maybe a couple of minutes in the third quarter. Obviously, you have the long touchdown, which you love, but it resulted in the defense being on the field for almost the entirety of the third quarter.
Yeah. Let's move on to our draft king of the game. Oh, not yet. We're going to start with helmet stickers, actually, and we'll close off our helmet stickers with the draft king of the game, or DraftKings king of the game. They're separate words. I always screw that up. So, Tyler, the way helmet stickers works is basically we give out helmet stickers to the players. Just to make sure we're on the same page.
You get 2.
Yeah,
right?
You get 2. Who wants to go first?
You can go.
Can I start? Can I say first half Sam Neuer?
Yes.
I love that distinction, yeah.
Yeah. First half Sam Neuer.
First half, Sam Neuer. You want more of that. Real quick, do you guys think he will be the quarterback next year?
Yes.
I do too. That's
got to excite you. That makes
definitely.
It makes you feel more confident. Obviously, the best case scenario is he comes back and then Brendan Lewis takes the job from him. Like, if that happens, then everyone will be really excited. It's not the best thing for Sam Neuer, but I think there's definitely a chance that he will come back.
That leads into a good question. People are asking, who's a better QB, Neuer or Montez?
Neuer. Well, it depends. That's literally the Montez story. Well,
I mean, Neuer is on that same trajectory as well, though. He has big moments and he has moments that really make you scratch your head. I would say this game is a perfect description of it.
I think if this was Sam Neuer's third year as a starter, you might not be seeing that stuff. And unfortunately for Steven Montez, his bad habits never went away.
Yeah, I mean, I would say Montez's freshman year might have been his best season as well. So I guess the answer is they're similar would be my response. I would say, though, I mean, Neuer's played 5 games. It's really hard to get a true answer one way or the other.
Neuer, certainly more of a weapon on the ground, except for that freshman season for Steven Montez, where obviously, he had a 100-yard rushing game against Oregon. I don't know. It's tough. I spoke too soon when I said Neuer right off the bat. It's an interesting conversation. I'll say this: if you have one of those guys to win you a big game, Steven Montez has won some really big games.
Yeah.
And Sam Neuer not yet. So you just don't know.
The difference for me would quickly be Neuer he's turned the ball over more than Montez has. And Montez's frustration, there's no doubt about that. He had games like that. But at the end of the day, you can't waste possessions with turnovers. Like, that has hurt us in the last couple games.
A lot of people in the comments are talking about Neuer's confidence and that being very different than Steven Montez.
And Steven wasn't necessarily a bad leader. He had his moments. But you just do feel like this team plays for Sam Neuer at a lot of, on the offensive side of the ball.
And we saw that immediately. Like it wasn't something that we've slowly learned about Sam, watched and been like, oh yeah, I feel like I'm starting to see something. It was like the first time he was on the field, you saw that. Like the way he was taking hits, the way he was jumping through guys or trying to or something, but doing all the things that he does, it just does fire you up a little bit. And I think that is a very real value that you have to consider.
I also think that all of his teammates saw the road that Sam Neuer went on, switching to safety, then wanting to transfer, so they really want to fight for him.
Yeah. I think this is a better conversation to have if he comes back next year and we can see him for a full real season.
Yeah.
I mean, he definitely has that Cepho gumption about him that Montez never had. He's kind of a blend of both guys, right? I mean, he's definitely more aggressive on the ground, kind of like Cepho was. Turned the ball over a lot early in his career, kind of like Cepho did as well. But the toughness, the grit, I mean, and you could tell both of those quarterbacks, the guys around him played for that quarterback.
Yeah.
Just to wrap this up, assuming Sam Neuer does come back next year and is the starting quarterback, what do you want to see him improve upon over the offseason?
Seeing linebackers. I mean, he was a safety. He's real great at seeing safeties. He doesn't see the linebackers.
I want to see Carl Durrell just have all of the linebackers hiding in different places of the locker room, and Sam has to point them all out.
Where's Waldo?
Yeah. Where's the linebacker?
It's true though. It's turnovers. I mean, they're all of the same variety as well. You can tell he's not seeing the defender. You have to get better with your eyes. And I thought today, or early on especially, he was going through his progressions, which is something that he struggles with at times too. But yeah, I mean, you just can't have turnovers in big games like that. I mean, you can play poorly, but if you don't turn the ball over, you'll likely have a chance. If you turn the ball over a lot, you're going to lose a lot of games.
Yeah, I like it.
There's one more comment about just the QB situation. If Sam Neuer comes back, is that a QB competition with Lewis?
You hope.
I mean,
For Lewis's sake.
Lewis could challenge him, like, if he has a nice camp, but I would expect Sam Neuer to be the guy. Like, he has done enough in my mind. Like, there are the mistakes. It's 5 interceptions now in 5 games. That's a big enough sample size to say, like, this is something that is a problem. And that does scare you. But with all the other things he brings, like the natural ability, the arm talent, just the way he can throw the ball. I mean, not having seen a lot of Brendan Lewis passing the football, I would say he cannot throw a football anywhere close to the way that Sam Neuer can.
Yeah, I hope he's getting stronger and developing arm strength and all those things during this season. Like I said, best case scenario, it would be really good news for the Buffs if the coaches look at Brendan Lewis in camp and say that guy actually gives us a better chance to win than the 6th-year senior or something, 5th-year senior. So you back of your mind, you kind of hope that happens. I think the likelihood is that Sam Neuer comes back and hopefully makes some improvements as a quarterback now that he has real game tape of himself at the Pac-12 level playing and can work on that stuff. And you're not going to be sad about how many years is it? Will it be his 5th?
Sam?
Yeah. So 5th-year senior at quarterback. It's one of the best advantages you can have as an experienced 5th-year senior at quarterback. There's a very, very good chance he would be the quarterback.
He has
sorry, Allie.
5 touchdowns or 5 interceptions through 4 games. He didn't throw an interception during UCLA's game. Just saying.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah. But so one more Sam Neuer question. What are the expectations for him as a starter next year if it does happen? Like is all Pac-12, is that realistic or is that a stretch?
No, I don't think so, but you never know. I mean, the Pac-12 traditionally has pretty good quarterback play, which makes it more difficult.
you're not going to have Slovis, right?
Slovish will still be
Everybody
there.
can
He
come
will
back.
be?
Yep.
That's what you got to remember.
Everyone
Literally
can come back. But can he go?
He can't.
Oh, he can't go. Okay,
Nope.
So he'll be there. That's probably your biggest competition.
And
Jaden
Jaden
Daniels is also probably your biggest competition.
You
Those
know,
guys are going
Yeah.
to be the favorites.
Yeah.
After that, though, you can start to make a case for moving up into 3rd, which if that happens, everyone will be really happy.
Yeah. And there are a lot of good young quarterbacks across the Pac-12 right now with Gebbia and Delora and like a whole bunch of guys that you're at least excited to see what the next step will be.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's
Dylan
really,
Morris.
it's not really an indictment on Neuer, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You just need improvement. I think that's really the expectation, right? Going back to the previous conversation, it's better for next year's results if Neuer wins the job, in my opinion. It might not be the case in terms of the long-term health of the program, if Brendan Lewis goes out and wins the job, because obviously you have to feel pretty good about that.
Yeah.
But next year, going into the next year with the same quarterback in year 2 is probably better for your short-term prospects.
I think so. I definitely think so. More helmet stickers.
King of the game.
Oh, you want to go king of the game now? Cool.
Yeah.
Here's our DraftKings king of the game that you guys are now seeing. It is Brendan Rice, who touched the ball 2 times, which was enough for him to win king of the game. Actually touched it a 3rd and dropped it, but we won't talk about that right now. Which was more impressive to you guys? The touchdown that he caught or the touchdown he returned?
Catch.
Easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
He took away an angle with his legs. When he caught that, you're like, okay, like he makes a move, he gets himself to the outside, and you're like, oh, this is going to be a big play. And then, you see whoever it was, safety probably coming over, and it looks like he has the angle, and suddenly it's a worse angle, and suddenly it's a worse angle, and there he goes.
Yeah.
Like Tyler said, his speed has come into question as a prospect. And
So
that
dumb.
play right there is probably going to put a lot of those questions
As
to
it
bed.
should. I mean, you have to have a special level of speed to break angles the way that he did on that play. I'm not sure if a casual football fan would see that play and understand what happened there, but I mean, that's a play that you look at. If you froze the frame, it's a 7-yard gain.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you would see that.
Mm-hmm.
And he blew the angle, scored a touchdown. That's when you have next level athleticism.
Yeah, and it's so crazy that he was seen as like a slow guy. And I feel like it's just because he was so big.
Yep.
But like you go back and watch him, like even freshman year in high school, he's running by everybody. He's running over everybody. He's running around everybody. Like He's just a really special athlete, and that's okay to just accept it and not try to find problems with him because he's so big. Maybe he's slow.
Yeah, I mean, and Laviska had that same exact thing. He wasn't even the highest rated wide receiver on his team.
It's crazy.
He wasn't even the highest rated wide receiver we got from that high school in that draft class.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but you watch the film and you see what apparently no one else sees. I don't know. I mean, Brendan was the same way. He was a late bloomer, a guy that definitely got better later on in his career. And I think maybe, I hate to bring up Jerry here, but when that's your dad, they're going to look at every little nitpick they possibly can just so they can say you're not your dad.
His
exactly.
dad is so dumb. And, like, it's become like a little bit of a bit that all of the, I don't want to call them outsiders. Maybe they are outsiders. That's Brendan, or that's Jerry Rice's son, Jerry Rice's son. So, like, we as the insiders are trying to say, like, no, that's Brendan Rice. But in the end, it's really cool that it's Jerry Rice's son, and you're right when it comes to that comparison. Okay, well, how is he not going to be Jerry Rice? Well, everyone ever is not going to be Jerry Rice.
Right. That's what the frustrating aspect of it is for sure.
I'll take the next helmet sticker with Mustafa Johnson. He made a couple of plays up the middle and just showed again why he is seen the way he is throughout the conference, throughout the country as a draft prospect. Like, he is just a very good football player who day in and day out is going to give you production from the defensive line spot. An interior pass rush is incredibly valuable, and especially with Carson Wells on the edge. He was just super valuable today, and it's just so nice to see him do it over and over and over again.
Yeah. I'll give my first one to Jarek Broussard. Not his best game as a Buff by any means, but we knew it was going to be way tougher for him to run out there. And I felt like he kept the running game alive by making special plays that most running backs can't make. Several big cutbacks, some big broken tackles. I think he's leading the conference in yards after contact. His contact balance is amazing. We talked about that a lot. So it wasn't a special game from him, but I think in a different circumstance, the Buffs would have ended up having to abandon the run much earlier in the game because they wouldn't have a guy who's seeing these tiny little lanes, making one move and making something out of it. So he kept the run game alive just by making special plays. Obviously, the fumble cannot happen, but sometimes you're falling down and they punch it out and they make a really good play. That was more good play Utah for me than bad play Jarek.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about his game, right? I mean, how many times have we seen a guy get tackled behind the line of scrimmage when he's not in there? And then the same exact play develops with him in there and he finds a way to get 5 yards. I mean, sometimes that's the difference between an elite running back and an average one. It's the 5-yard runs, not the 60-yard runs.
Little worried about, how some of these players who have been complaining that they don't get the ball more are going to be after a loss. Because these have been complaints after a win, which is a big pet peeve of mine. And we haven't been on Twitter obviously since this show started, but I'm worried that there's going to be some people who are upset that they didn't get the ball more in a big game.
I hate that so much.
Me too.
I hate that so much.
Keep it to yourself.
Yeah, just don't put it on Twitter.
Yeah,
it's a tough thing about this era.
It just seems like such a weird thing when you're like kind of secretly like hinting at bashing people who you're spending all day with. Like, it's not like us where it's like you don't see Darian Hagan all that often, but for a running back to be like, oh, how are they putting him out there instead of me? Like, this just doesn't make sense. And then going into the meeting rooms the next day, like, that has to be incredibly uncomfortable.
Right, like me tweeting out, like, wow, cannot believe Henry didn't ask me to be on his podcast this week. They were bad.
Yeah.
And then me just, like, walking into work being like, what's up, Henry?
I know.
I'm going to start subtweeting you guys from the other pod accounts.
That is a really weird dynamic. Like,
I just can't imagine.
Like, we can all see it with our eyes that Joe Davis shouldn't be out there, but it's weird for like his peer to be saying that about him.
Like, it doesn't need to be said. Like,
No.
it's obvious, right? Because he had the last game, he got a bunch of carries. It was like 10 for 18 yards, I think. And today
9 for
he
16, had maybe something like
today
that.
He had 2 for 0 with a long of 4.
Yeah, well, I mean,
And
part of it is play calling, right? I mean, the play call that they put in.
That's not
on
for
that.
him.
I think it was a 40-yard loss. They took Jarek out of the game and then ran a sideline run with Joe Davis. Like, wait, that's not smart in any situation. Like,
No.
that's not his game. He's not successful with that run. Like, that can't happen.
The comments came through with some of the tweets that have been going on.
Of course.
Oh,
Yes.
great. What'd we get?
Can you
Keith
pull 'em up?
Miller, of
Yeah,
course,
Keith
was tweeting
Miller.
during the
We
game.
did see the
Yes,
Keith
yes.
Miller one. So he's just redshirting?
Yeah.
Because
I mean,
you
everybody
have to be
technically is red
But
shirt.
I mean, like, you have to be not on the sideline to have your phone. So
again, you'd think, but these like weird subtweets have gone so far that I'm not totally sure.
Okay.
And then Ashad tweeted, "I'll be in a different position next season," and Keith retweeted that.
Yeah, I think Ashok tweeted that a couple days ago.
that, I mean, that can be interpreted many different ways. I'm not going to get into interpreting.
That's kind of his
it.
game, though.
Yeah.
I
very
still have the
true.
notifications
I'm
on.
not, I mean, I already did this with Jerry Judy once this week. I'm not getting into the reading between the lines of the tweets of kids. Usually they're a lot more overt about it, like, give me the rock, or why the F am I not playing, like Keith Miller was. No reading between the lines necessary there. I forgot Ben was here.
Yeah, you guys may have noticed a big ass on your screen. That was Ben's as he was walking through to sit down on his chair. So
You think
Ben,
it's big?
as always, yeah, yeah.
All right.
Ben has been in the other room listening into the Zoom press conference,
Long
and
time.
let's just put these helmet stickers on hold for a second. Ben, what'd you learn?
Yeah, lots of disappointment, as I'm sure the vibe is
You're
the
kidding.
same in here. I know, right?
Yeah.
Shocker there. Carl Durrell, he's always a mild-mannered guy, but today you could tell it was just different. His answers to responses, he was very satirical in some of his replies. For example, somebody asked, how do the field conditions hurt your team? What about the tarp? And he kind of chuckled. And he was like, well, Utah played on the same field we did. I'm not going to make that as an excuse. And it's kind of interesting. That's a good reason. That's a good reply. But his responses just felt a little bit more sassy, if you will.
I'd like some sass.
Yeah,
out of
no,
that.
clearly disappointed. Said we didn't play like our normal selves. He talked about Landman's injury, officially done for the year, lower leg injury, as I'm sure we all assumed. And he also said, we have the next man up mentality. And Darian Rakestraw talked about that earlier or later on in the post or in the presser as well. Next man up mentality, and that's fine. That's a great mentality to have, but you have one of the nation's best linebackers. I think it's okay to expect a drop in production. And both Rakestraw and Carl Durrell said, we want to have our backups go in there and do the same job. We expect the same thing, and it's just, I get that's the standard answer you're going to give, but this is one of the nation's top linebackers. I think it would be a little arrogant to not expect that kind of a drop.
There's a big difference between next man up mentality and next man up talent.
Yeah.
You can have we might have one of those things. We do not have both.
Well, next man up mentality has always been hilarious to me because you don't really have a choice. Someone else has to come out there. And
We
make
don't have the
plays
next
on
man up
field.
mentality. We're going with 10.
So,
again.
I've never really understood it. And, if that's going to be your approach, that you're going to bring in a backup linebacker to replace his production and make no adjustments, no scheme changes, well, you
That's
get a
what
28-0 run to end the game.
And
Sure
that is
do.
a coaching adjustment that I was banging the table for as soon as Nate went out. I said, okay, now you have to pack the box. And I kept saying, 6-man box. And then they kept breaking runs. So I guess that is a Tyson Summers criticism is it didn't really look like they said, okay, let's pull the Nate Landman emergency cord and stack the box and hope that our secondary guys can win on one-on-ones on the outside. And they weren't doing that with Britton Covey, that's for sure. But you got to have a chance to stop the run.
Yeah, obviously the first half defense played great, only giving up 10 points, but there were two very big slights on Tyson Summers today. It is the defensive adjustments, and there was no plan for Covey on the outside. He was going everywhere. He was doing so much for that Utah offense, and as the game went on, there was just no sign of a reaction. On Neuer's injury as well, he said doctors say it's going to be fine. He said he's actually been dealing with a sore shoulder, for the majority of the season.
Solid decision to slam it into a massive linebacker.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair criticism of Sam Neuer. I mean, we've been talking about it all season. You got to learn when you're taking the smart hits, and I'm sure you've talked about Sam Neuer at length at this point. Hopefully somebody gave him a helmet sticker because I sure as heck will, but
We didn't yet.
Well, first half. We get first half Sam.
First half
Sam
Sam.
Neuer.
Neuer.
You know what? Do you think he meant to do it, or do you think maybe he didn't realize that linebacker was there?
Oh, no, he was trying to run
I
through.
see what you did there. I see what you did there.
Yep, he did
oh,
that.
my
That's
Did
the
he
first
see
time
it?
I've seen Sam Neuer try to run someone over and go absolutely nowhere. So credit to that linebacker.
You ever wonder what would happen, like just Nate Landman, Sam Neuer going at it in practice?
Nate Landman would win.
I think so, but what are the percentages?
I just don't.
100.
I hope it never happened, or else we know why his shoulder is sore.
Yeah, Nate would got suspended if he hit Sam Neuer the way that he does everyone else.
Seriously.
So the only other major takeaway, I'll be honest, because Carl Durrell, again, very, very disappointed, whatnot. Brendan Rice got up to the podium, which it was nice to hear from him because obviously he had a fantastic day, our DraftKings king of the game. He was asked if it was a bittersweet day, and he said, it was a good first half, but we couldn't keep pace. And he was also asked
Did he answer that directly at all? Did he say, no, yes, it is a bittersweet day?
just kind of danced around it,
Okay.
which I thought was a pretty good answer, all things considered.
I would have preferred the just bitter, but,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it's better than tweeting why the F am I
no,
not?
and,
Yeah, that is true.
and I think he did a good job of maintaining actually a team vision out there. He was asked if after the screen pass in the third quarter, obviously the one that broke it open 21-10, he said, how was your reaction? Did the team feel like it was over then? And he said he was ecstatic, but at the same time we talked about, this game's not over. We got to keep it up. And so I think he actually did do a good balance with my first time hearing him speak about it, of saying, yeah, I'm excited. I mean, he's a young kid. He's going to be excited about having a great game, but at the same time, keeping that team focus and that team mentality. Other than that, the only big takeaway was just talking about the tackling issues. Darian Rakeshaw multiple times. No excuse for missed tackles. No excuse for missed tackles. Carl Durrell said the same thing. And it's great to hear them say that on the podium, but that's one of those things where, we're 5 weeks into the season at this point. It's not something that I think is going to change overnight. Now, it hasn't been an issue all season.
I thought the conditions were the main reason for that. And I don't want to make excuses, but I said it from the first 3 plays of the game. I was like, they look unconfident in their footing out there. And when you, defense especially, if you aren't confident in your feet, you're in big, big trouble.
Well, and sometimes you are confident when maybe you shouldn't be.
And you go sliding out of the play.
Yeah, and you look at what happens to Nate Landman as well, because,
I still
again,
don't
we don't know what
understand
happened, but
I mean, Utah missed a lot of tackles too. Let's be
True.
honest. I mean, you can say that the condition. You can't say the conditions had no effect.
No, they had a big
Whether or
effect.
not it's the biggest effect, you can make an argument. But
Right.
it's just natural when you're reacting to someone else and you don't have solid footing. It makes it a lot more difficult.
Extremely.
Yeah. So, I mean, altogether, not the most in-depth post-game presser I've seen because obviously these guys are dealing with a lot, but Carl Durrell seemed mildly optimistic about how he wanted to see his locker room respond because this is the first time he's coached a team here in Boulder where you've had this kind of adversity, obviously 4-0 start, and I think there's reason for that to be optimistic. I think fans can kind of buy into that because at the end of the day, this team is far and away better than any of us would have thought coming into today. So it's a tough loss. Colorado had a lot on the line today, and they didn't step up. But at the same time, we've seen a lot of improvement from them, and I do think that that's something to kind of keep in mind.
how about a helmet sticker? Oh,
I was just saying, doesn't it feel like a guarantee now that USC is going to find a way to blow it?
Oh, probably. I mean,
Feels like that to me.
Just to make it.
That's
work.
buff shit.
I don't even want to think about that. The helmet sticker.
yeah,
man.
I've done it every week. I've got to keep it going. I'm going whole game Sam Neuer because
Whoa!
No, and that's bold.
Wait. First half, Sam Neuer is taken.
So
You have to take
go
second
that's
half.
fine. That's
You'll take
fine.
second half Sam Neuer.
I'll take second half Sam Neuer.
Okay.
I'm gonna ride with this kid, and here's why. He showed a lot of toughness and wanted to hang into that game. Whether or not that was for the best is probably up for debate. Because on that last drive, he on the very last drive he was out there, his arm looked pretty shot. But when he re-entered that game, they did not put him in a position to win. I think I heard you guys talking about it. Your first play that you come back in with a quarterback and a shoulder injury, and you have him roll out and chuck the ball up the field. I mean, why are you getting away from what you're doing? So I think he showed a lot of toughness. He showed he's willing to fight for his teammates, and that's why people believe in him as a leader. For a kid in his 5th start, I keep calling him a kid. He's probably older than me.
He's certainly older than you, Ben.
but-
He is much older than you, Ben.
But you're a kid too. So
Yeah, probably.
fellow
Probably.
kid in his 5th start.
Yeah, exactly.
Somehow McKinley Wright took your ankles last. Yeah, come on.
Okay, neck beard. Shoulder beard, right?
Shoulder
beard.
beard,
That's
yeah.
what it was, yeah. What I was saying before I was rudely interrupted. No,
By yourself?
Yeah.
You
Yes, it
interrupted
was.
you.
Oh, that's my bad. Look, I think people. I'm still in on Sam Neuer. I think he's going to develop a lot. He's still young. He's still got a lot of areas to improve, absolutely. But I don't think this is a time to start calling for a QB controversy for this season, obviously. And going into next year, he's definitely got the leg up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you make some good points there, and I look back on that play right when he comes back, and like did he talk to he ran out of the locker and we saw that happening, and then he was in on the next play. Like, I want to know, like, did Chev say, like, hey, do you have this play in you? And he said yes, and if so, okay, well then that's fine. But it almost looked like, remember in Harry Potter when he breaks his arm and they inject that stuff and it makes it so he doesn't even have any bones and he just has like a floppy. That's kind of what it seemed like Sam Neuer had when he came back into the game. Like, he went from having a rocket to just like a floppy thing.
Yeah, that's exactly what I
right.
saw. Okay, who's up next for a helmet sticker?
Me, I think.
Yeah?
If we're going, I don't know. You tell
We
me.
don't go in orders.
Ryan,
Okay.
have you given a helmet sticker?
Have I?
No,
yeah,
you
Jarek.
have.
Yeah, you had.
Oh,
Yeah,
you
that's
don't.
right.
So then, yes, Tyler.
I'm going to give one to Mekhi Blackman.
Good. I'm
Because
glad somebody
I bet
did.
people probably haven't this year, and he's been pretty good throughout the season. He got picked today. He finally gets on the board with one of those, and Utah avoided him. I mean, I think back on all the Britton Covey plays. I don't think Mekhi was guarding him for any of them. So he did his part out there, covered his half of the field. So good game for him for sure.
Yeah.
I
yeah.
also let me pull up that interception. Just give me 2
We get to look
seconds.
at highlights.
There
I wasn't sure how
is.
many highlights there would be because
Hold on.
of the loss.
I just don't think a field should look like that when it's not snowing.
All right, people can
Yeah.
now see the screen.
Yeah, I'd be curious to hear more about the field. Like, what were the other
Yeah,
options?
if they do tarp it, why wouldn't they in this situation?
Yeah.
I don't know how much a tarp is, but it seems like a good investment.
And if not, I feel like Buffs fans would have pooled money or pooled tarps and sewn them together.
Oh, that's how they make those 100-yard
Blanket drive.
American flags. It's like a bunch of little pieces all sewed together.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
A bunch of,
There's only like 9 that exist in the world.
Really?
Yeah. So, anyways, they could have got one of those and laid it down before it started snowing.
Yeah. Back to football. I'll give a helmet sticker. I still have one to give. I'll go Carson Wells. He was very good again. I mean, you think back to the sack he had right after Nate Landman leaves the game. Such an important moment. Somebody needed to do something. I think that Buffs fans who are watching, I think the coaches on the sideline, I think the players on the sideline, Rick George, everybody's thinking, oh God, what is about to happen to this defense that just lost Nate Landman? And what happened was Carson Wells turned the corner, got into the backfield, got the quarterback down on the ground, and that was a huge play. Now, what happened from then on wasn't perfect, but it was something that was very needed, and of course, it wasn't the only play he made this game, and it certainly wasn't one of few plays he's made this season. He's been everywhere in every game, and he deserves another helmet sticker.
I'll give my last one to Vontae Chenault. Man, he just makes plays when he's out there. I'm really excited about his future, and Tyler was talking about it when we were watching the game. Like, everyone thought that it was just like a legacy, like, oh, you'll bring in Visca's little brother, and it'll be a cool little story for them to be on the same team. And it was more like, no, he's also a baller, a very different baller, but also a baller. He makes the one-handed catch downfield today. Sweet play. And again, it just goes into how many weapons you have that you can use downfield.
Yeah.
My last one I'm going to give to Maurice Bell. Great game. And he's been someone who's kind of been in and out of the offense. He was really involved in the first couple weeks, took a step back. Maybe that was because Katie Nixon was healthy and that, just how the rotation worked. But he had a great game today, 4 catches and a fantastic touchdown catch, which really was a fantastic throw, but also for him to maintain focus. In traffic. Great game for him. Drops are a problem with this Buffs team. I don't think Maurice Bell had one today. I can't remember one for him. So I'll give him some credit for that as well as one of the Buffs receivers kind of holding onto the ball.
Yeah. Part of the reason for the drops, I mean, obviously half of it is that it's freezing cold outside, but then I think a very significant portion is just how hard Sam Neuer throws the ball. Yeah. Those are not easy balls to catch. And I hope that the receivers get used to it in time for next season, but it's not easy to do.
Yeah,
they are
It probably
heaters.
hurts. Too.
Yeah.
Utah was dropping passes, so again,
Yeah.
conditions were problematic there. But yes, Neuer throws a very hard ball. Doesn't matter how far he's throwing it.
I didn't even going back to the field conditions. I didn't even think about the fact that they're not normally playing games at Folsom Field on December 12th.
That is
I think
true.
I think this was the 10th coldest day in Buffs history where they played a game.
It's just like another thing that's just like a little change that happens because of COVID that ends up really costing them. Because I do kind of blame the field conditions for Nate Landman's injury. You don't normally just possibly break your leg just running around out there unless you're running on ice or whatever they were out there. So just sucks. They're not normally playing games at Folsom Field December 12th.
Speaking of, we have a question on Sherman's injury. Any update on that?
He didn't give any update. I know he went back into the game, so I think he should be good to go. But yeah, as far as the injuries go, Carl Durrell only talked about Sam Neuer and Nate Landman.
I have a helmet sticker because you guys
yeah.
haven't said Nate Landman.
That's
And I just
my
feel
goodness,
like,
that is
how
a good
could
one.
you forget? And I'm going to bring up a picture that is going to that made me sad. But for you guys to see, and you see Sam Neuer
face.
on there.
Wow, yeah, I was just
and the
hoping to be sad.
leadership.
Wow.
I've been sitting here thinking, I wish I could see something sad. Glad we saw that. Wow,
man.
that sure is sad.
I mean, he just deserves a helmet sticker every single game. He's been incredible for the Buffs, and of course, prayers to him for a speedy recovery.
I always say there's something powerful about seeing a grown man cry, and usually you're not talking about 23-year-olds, but that's seeing a grown man cry, and it's tough. It's really tough to swallow.
My heart goes out to Nate Landman and all that, but it is kind of funny to see Ziskin sitting there with all the Buffs. Like he is on the field.
But you do see Sam Neuer there, and you saw him after last week with Chance. Like his leadership shows every single time, especially when his teammates get injured.
Yep.
Shout out to my full game helmet sticker, Sam Neuer.
I really, really hope that's not the last image of Nate Landman
I
in black and
know.
gold.
I hope to never see that photo ever again.
I know, I'm sorry.
And real quick on that too, Nate Landman missed the entire second half. Still was the second leading tackler with 6 tackles. Darren Rakestraw had 7. So
He
it's
didn't
like
tackle very many people after he left.
yeah,
That's true.
It's just again, next man up mentality. But when you've got a generational talent at middle linebacker who really transforms your team, I mean, it's understandable why the air kind of came out from that defense.
Alex is asking, did Landman win a Buffs Heart Award?
Oh, did they give out the Buffalo Heart?
They haven't
They
yet for the
haven't yet,
season.
yeah.
But
Okay.
has he won one?
He has
Well,
not won.
it's almost always a senior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay. So no.
Not yet.
I-
We're good with questions right now, by the way. So send in all of your questions because we're doing those right now. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, give us like the like and the subscribe and all that kind of stuff. Click on the bell so that you get the notifications. They don't. I don't think they actually make a bell sound when you get the notification, but it's the.
Unless you have that
image.
setting on your phone.
choice.
Oh yeah, I guess you could change that. Huh. I always feel like I want to leave the apps on whatever the natural like Tinder has its own sound, Snapchat has its own sound, and
Can we get the Tinder sound? What's the Tinder sound?
da-da-da-da-da-da.
Oh, nice. That is exciting.
I could do better.
Something I've never heard.
Okay.
Ah,
All right. We
I wish
have
I
some
heard it more.
questions, and this one I know Ryan's going to love. Can we all agree no black on black helmets ever again?
I was going to say,
Toughen
can
up.
I give an anti-helmet sticker to a helmet?
No, you can't, because
Okay.
that would be a
I'm
waste of our
removing
time.
a helmet sticker from black helmets. I'm sorry. You can tell me how much this doesn't matter. It's juju, and why would you invite bad juju? I just don't understand. Black helmets, they're just gone. They're done forever. It's okay. We already have the best helmet ever. It's gold. We don't need black ones. We can use white ones and gray ones and purple and blue and anything you want. No more black helmets ever.
I just think we need to bring black helmets out for like CSU.
Okay, now no.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I don't want bad juju then. Bring it out for like South Dakota State.
Yeah.
And if you lose that one, then you definitely put it to bed forever. When you win, you might be able to revive it.
That's what I'm
That's a compromise I'm willing to make.
I want to see who they've played. Because if it's like, oh, we're
USC,
0-4 against
USC.
USC, well, guess what? We've lost to USC in every color helmet.
Baylor was one. I think the first time they ever wore black helmets was against Baylor.
Like 1-11 Baylor, or the year they were good.
No, it wasn't the. Well, I mean, it was before Robert Griffin III. So
Was Colorado any good?
I don't know.
It
was a really long time ago.
Since 2001. So the odds
That's
are in
kind of
their
what I was
favor.
thinking.
No.
So if that was the first time that they wore black
so actually,
helmets,
they might have won that one if it's since 2001. I thought it was of all time.
Oh, I'm sure it is. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Oh, you're saying
Us playing Baylor. This conversation was since 2001.
Yeah. No more black helmets. It's okay.
I mean,
or
toughen
you wear
up.
them again. No,
It's a color of a helmet. My
doesn't-
goodness. See, this is the
Yeah, I
type
don't
of
buy
stuff exactly. Like Buffs fans occasionally can be a little bit soft about stuff.
These
like
are
they're
all
just jumpy is
sports
what
fans.
it is.
How
We-
many times?
No,
We're
not
just
this.
sports fans.
No.
Not
Yes.
this.
Yes,
no.
this.
If you
No,
if you don't
this is
follow
sad.
sports with
This is sad.
superstitions and beliefs like that, then I don't know how you're living, man. I mean, this is what people buy into. Like I woke up this morning and we're talking about the helmets, and I'm like, oh, I don't like that.
Oh my
Because Ryan
goodness.
talks about how bad the black helmets are so much that now it's ingrained in me that anytime I see a uniform drop with black helmets, I'm like, oh crap.
You know that thing where like if you like put a cucumber by a cat, it'll turn around and just like jump up in the air like that. Like I
Where
feel
is
like
this
that's what
going?
Buffs fans are. Like somebody brings up the
Does that
black
thing
helmet.
into
No, it's
snake?
like what? Black helmet? Black helmet? Black helmet?
that is
And it's
me.
like it's like 6 different things. It's like remember when I brought up like they could be playing the SEC in the bowl game. It's like SEC, not the SEC. We can't play the SEC. It's like I mean, come on.
You're exaggerating a little bit.
I mean,
but
it's
the
not
point is,
much. Like that's what the,
we've lost a lot in the last 15 years. let's just control all the things that we can control. One of those things is helmets. We've
yeah.
never won one.
Okay,
I'm not-
Let's test
next
that.
how about we
question.
don't get the
Next question.
best linebacker in the country hurt and talk
Well,
about that.
then
man.
maybe you don't wear black helmets. You don't get bad juju.
Okay, next question. Go Buffs is asking, no chance Mustafa is back, right? Any
I think there is a chance. Right now, if he were to go to the NFL, what did he do today? He had another half tackle, 1.5 tackles for loss. That's right. I mean, he's putting up solid numbers. The lack of height will be a pretty significant knock on him. But I think that knock probably just pushes him to day 3. And that's where he would probably go. Again, it depends on like the testing and all that kind of stuff. But to me, I think that if he wanted to go to the NFL, there would be a spot for him. And it wouldn't just be like a camp invite at this point.
Yeah, I would be shocked if he doesn't get drafted.
Yeah.
But he's not going to go early for
Yep.
all the reasons you mentioned. Again, you put him in a combine setting, he's not going to light the world on fire.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what he is as a player. Now, what's good about the NFL in his case is they love run stuffers. I mean, it doesn't matter how much the NFL throws. They want to control the line of scrimmage. And Mustafa is that type of player. He's not going to go into the NFL and get 10 sacks in a season. But he can control the line of scrimmage even though he's undersized. So to me, I think it's kind of a 50-50 proposition right now. I don't know if he's really going to improve his stock by coming back.
That's the thing.
Just a choice he has to make.
I mean, I guess it would have to be one of those. Who was the team recently where like everyone decided to come back? It was like a Duke basketball team or something where they all like banded together and were like, "We're coming back."
highly doubt it was Duke.
I don't remember who it was, but like it would have to be one of those things where like Nate says, "I'm coming back." Mustafa, you should come back, and like we'll have like one of the best defenses in the country, and we can, that'll help our stock. That's the scenario that I see where like you get some dominoes falling, and it can honestly go the other way. Nate's like, "No, I gotta go," and Mustafa's like, "Okay, I gotta go too."
And Carson says, you know what? I've put up big numbers. I might as well give it my run now, too.
Yeah.
Ian here is asking, do y'all think there's going to be another conversation about starting QB next year? We touched about this a little bit earlier. If you guys want to talk about it more, we can, or we can move on to another question.
There will be a conversation. There will definitely be a conversation.
Could be short.
And I hope it is short. And I think that what's going to happen is some people are going to say, play Brendan Lewis, play Brendan Lewis. The L's and the R's there. Wow. But then you realize, like, nope, he's not ready. And there's going to be a small faction of the fan base. It's like, how could you be wasting another year of Brendan Lewis when you could be developing
You
him?
wouldn't even waste one. You
You're
just
not.
redshirt it.
But it's what they're going to say.
But,
And this is a free year, so
But
you're
my
not wasting
question
another year.
No.
is how's
have-
Brendan Lewis going to react to that?
Oh,
Because we've seen
seems like
his
the kind of guy who knows
social,
his
we've
time
seen
is
the way
coming.
he acts.
His social and the way he acts has been fine so far. I'm pretty sure.
yeah.
I've seen a few tweets.
I would say I don't really worry about that with him.
No.
I mean, he's the next guy in line. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, because if Neuer comes back next year, Lytle's time is up, right, as well, and he's the next in line. So to me, you're going to have the opportunity. He could be a 4-year starter still. I mean,
Yeah.
he would redshirt next year and still come back as a freshman.
Can you
Yep.
imagine like 6th-year senior Brendan Lewis?
Yeah.
Like that's a hell of an advantage to have if you end up getting it.
Okay, Alex here is asking, will Chev be a better head coach than offensive coordinator?
Well, first of all, there's a big bridge you have to cross to even get to Chev being a head coach. I think there's a case to be made that at a small school where he goes and, it gives that program a bunch of energy, he could be successful. But he's going to have to be a lot better as an offensive coordinator before he starts getting those calls. Unfortunately, and Tyler and I had this conversation last week, even being an offensive coordinator has pulled him away a little bit from his greatest strength and his greatest addition to a coaching staff, which is his recruiting ability. Obviously, being an offensive coordinator takes up more time than being a wide receivers coach. So being a head coach takes up even more time. Usually the head coach is mostly just there to close the deal.
Yep.
So I don't know. I think he has the energy of a guy who could go to a smaller school and help a program get some energy and get going. But like I said, he's going to have to really light the world on fire as an offensive coordinator at some point before he gets that opportunity.
Yep. And here's the thing. How about what if the Buffs come back next year? They have Sam Neuer back at quarterback. Sam is, I don't know, maybe 4th in all Pac-12 voting. The team goes 9-3, 8-4 in the season. The offense is what it is right now. I think coming into today, they were 2nd in yards per game. If that happens again, do you think that he is the offensive coordinator or does get a head coaching job?
I don't know. He might be of interest.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think he's still a little bit too young as far as his experience at a high level. I think he probably needs another couple of seasons as offensive coordinator. But I think he makes a fantastic head coaching candidate because I think he'd be a great head coach if he's able to kind of diversify what he does and bring in an offensive coordinator who's going to call the plays as well. So that way he can just focus on being a leader and then he can maybe focus more on recruiting than on the offensive end of things. But again, it's all circumstantial. It's still very young into his career and he's still got some wrinkles to iron out before we get to that point.
What about Tyson Summers? How far off do you guys think he is from getting another job?
He's done it.
Yep.
It didn't work out. That never really helps. But defense, is everything. And there's going to be someone out there, if he keeps up this type of defense, again, let's say they do get that momentum and they bring all these guys back next year and they have the best defense in the Pac-12, someone's going to be interested. He's another guy who, if you've got a program that's lacking energy, he'll come in there and inject some right into it.
What I would say is that Tyson Summers is absolutely a better coordinator than Darren Chiaverini. That doesn't necessarily mean he makes a better head coaching candidate, though, and that's kind of the lost art of people going around the country and trying to find a head coach.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of guys, even in the NFL, this happens a lot too. You're taking on a great coordinator that doesn't have the attributes to be a head coach. You see it all the time.
Yeah, I think we might see it right around here somewhere, too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Perfect example. So, to me, Chiaverini has an opportunity to be a good head coach if he gets there someday. He hasn't shown the skills as a coordinator to get there yet. Summers obviously got the job once, so I like him as a head coach. But, again, to me, he strikes me as a guy who's an elite defensive coordinator, and that's probably where he should stay.
So, to change the question just a little bit, are you worried about him getting poached to somewhere like Georgia or Bama, somewhere that does run the same defensive scheme and he could kind of step right in and take it over?
Not those two, but it's those lateral moves don't happen very often. Mm-hmm. Obviously, if someone comes with the Brinks truck like they did for Jim Leavitt a couple of years back, then you'll probably lose them. I don't know if it's going to be Alabama or Georgia, but some school that has more money than Colorado could probably come in and make a compelling offer.
That's the biggest concern. I mean, he's from the South. Mm-hmm. So if a big school in the South comes calling, yeah, he's going to be interested because the money is just
it's huge.
That much more dynamic, right? I mean, you can change your life with the difference in money you're getting from us versus an SEC school.
Just look at what Alabama did with what's his face? Sarkisian.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't see that happening this year. I think both of these coordinators are young and have a lot more to prove. Before they start getting poached, especially in a year we're 4-1. I mean, it's been a great season, but I don't think a lot of people are focusing their time on who are the next up and coming coordinators around the country. There's a lot of other stuff going on out in the world, so I don't really see a bunch of movement. I was
going to say, I don't know how many coaches are going to end up getting fired.
Yeah.
So that leads to transition 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 asks.
Great name.
Do you think we see major changes to the coaching staff now that Darrell will have a full off season?
No.
Nope.
No, I don't. I do wonder. Where would you expect to see changes? This is probably a better conversation for after the season.
I'd be surprised if there's any.
Yeah.
If there's one that I was going to point out, it would be secondary.
Yeah.
Maybe, and then you worry about some poachings. A lot of times you get these guys late in the cycle. It's because they're in between places. I think you could potentially lose a guy like Taylor Embry to the NFL because that's his background. That's where he's been, and it's probably where he's going to end up eventually at some point.
Yeah.
Okay, Peter's asking, who do you think has more raw talent, LaVisca or Brendan Rice?
LaVisca. Listen, no disrespect to Brendan Rice, but LaVisca is an absolute freak of nature. If it wasn't for injury concerns, he would have walked into the NFL as one of the 5 best receivers.
Yeah. Agreed.
And probably one of the top 10 draft picks.
And would have been in the Heisman conversation.
Yeah.
He was for a brief moment.
Yeah.
I mean, he was pretty high up in the conversation before he got hurt.
Dan is asking, might have missed it. Any chance Nate comes back? This injury hurt his stock a ton.
Nate comes back to school.
Oh.
We talked about that at length. It's possible. The hard thing is just what does he do for himself? Like, we've already seen what his value is. We've already seen he can dominate this level of competition. To me, it would have to be like an unfinished business, like warrior type thing where he's like, I'm not letting my last play at Folsom Field be me, whatever happened, and then walking off with tears in my eyes. That's the only thing I could see is like, and if it's going to happen, he would be the type of guy to do it. But at the same time, someone might get in his ear and say, we respect that you think that way. It's not worth it. Just,
gotta go get paid.
Go. Yeah.
For him personally, the only thing he could prove is that he's recovered from his injury. And
it doesn't sound like it's going to be one of those. I hope.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Not one of the ones where people think, oh, you never know how a guy comes back from this.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And basketball is a different sport, right? I mean, you can play a lot of years. Football, you have to go get your money as soon as it's possible.
Yep.
Not only is he a football player, he plays linebacker. One of the shortest tenures of any position in football, right?
Yep.
I mean, you're hurting yourself financially if you choose to come back in a year that you can go get paid, in my opinion.
Yep.
We sure won't complain about it, though.
Ryan's asking, how do we feel about how the game was officiated? The Neuer fumble, ?
To me, the spots on the balls was the weirdest part because every time somebody goes down, you're like, okay, is this 2nd and 8 or is it 2nd and 13? No idea. It's going to be somewhere in this 5-yard window, though.
Other than that, there's very few places where you could point to and say, oh, that call really cost the Buffs. The one with the Neuer fumble, I think it's a classic case of whatever they called on the field was going to stand.
Yep.
And they called it a fumble on the field, and I say I'm like over 50% that was probably the right call.
And that's Ryan talking.
Yeah, exactly.
So try 90.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, there was no way they were overturning it. I'm trying to think of another time in the game where I was upset about a call. I saw a lot of holdings in the backfield, but the Buffs didn't get hit for holding on their side, and I know those happened. I just didn't see them.
What about when Utah put their knee down?
They
called that.
They got it.
I know,
got
but
back to it.
They didn't see it at first.
Yeah. Well, no one else saw it either.
I didn't see it. Yeah.
Well, except Tyler.
Yeah.
Standing up like his knee was down. And I'm like, really?
Yeah.
And then I brought up my take of then all field goals shouldn't count. And the Buffs would have been in this one if all field goals didn't count.
That is true.
I'll follow it up by saying you cannot blame the officials even 1% for this game.
Yeah,
Let's
no.
be real. That was a fumble. If it wasn't called a fumble on the field, I could have seen it maybe staying, as Ryan said. But once the ball starts moving, yes, he sort of regathered it. But if you end up fumbling that away, you're not going to get the benefit of the doubt on that call. So I mean, there's always the spots of balls is a thing in football that is. I mean, every game is a joke. So that's not new there. I thought, by and large, the refs were clean today.
Kind of crazy that Utah wasn't called for a penalty, though.
See, that's where I have
Utah
a problem
committed
with.
a penalty somewhere on the field that wasn't seen. There's no way they played a perfect game of football.
Because honestly, in every game of football, there's holding on pretty much every play. And there were some block in the backs missed and whatnot, but I completely agree. That's not the reason Colorado lost this game. So, yeah, should they have been called for a penalty or two? Probably, but it really wouldn't have changed the outcome of this game.
You didn't see a 17-point penalty that would have sent it to overtime?
Surprisingly, today, no.
No 17-point penalties the refs missed?
Or just
okay.
like a penalty that would have made Nate Landman be off the field for that play.
All right. This question is directed to Tyler.
Ooh.
Will Tyler at least eat crow on Katie Nixon? He made an incredible catch today.
I don't know if there's a plate to be served.
Because he had one catch.
I believe he had
Yeah.
3 catches for
52
What
yards.
crow do I
52
need to
yards.
eat that I think KD's not our best receiver? I mean, I think we have proven pretty clearly today, in fact, that he's not.
Look, I don't want to be. I don't. There's no need to put any hate on Katie Nixon's name, and I don't think that's what you're doing. But he certainly didn't do anything to. He hasn't been dominant by any means at any point.
I mean, he's fine. He's a starter.
Yep.
No one's really arguing that. Should he be getting all the catches on the team? No. I mean, I think there's more talented guys out there. That's just in my opinion.
I do still believe they're not using him in the right way, but
I agree.
that's a gripe I've had for his entirety of his time here.
But wouldn't you say that it's the way he wants to be used, though?
Probably.
Okay.
Probably.
Just want to clarify that because
He should be like scat back style, just getting the ball in open field any way you can. He's not really a receiver. He makes receiver-like plays a lot of the times, but
He can make plays on the ball downfield. And he
Absolutely.
made another today. And I think but that's the balance. I feel like that's what makes it work so well is it's either like a streak or it's something that's right at the line of scrimmage. And it should probably be like 80% this and 20% this.
and to be honest, he's going to be in a tough matchup in a downfield play every time unless he's so open that you just get it to him over the top. What I would like to see, because he can make plays on the field, line him up in the backfield, run a wheel route, see if you can get a coverage, advantage there where you're able to throw it to him when he's just running straight, sort of like they did with the flea flicker. Like if he catches the ball and he's not having to like make a jump ball or make a contested catch, which he can make, you're getting yourself in much better positions to use him. And then again, I said it every game when Visca was here. Use Visca to clear out space on one side of the field, bring KD from this side of the field to that open space and get him the ball there, and now you have a play. And they did it twice in the Washington game last year for touchdowns.
That's
Peter's
true.
also saying they don't seem to use Stanley either.
yeah, that one I can agree with 100%.
He disappeared.
What's going on with that?
I don't know.
I mean, he led this team for 2 weeks. He was unstoppable, and then the last, 3 games he's been almost non-existent. And I think he had maybe 1 or 2 targets today on third down. I don't think he registered a catch.
He got stopped short on one third down play.
He was the target on the 4th down play that was stopped.
Yeah.
That was blocked.
So it's just interesting, what is it the defenses are just completely shutting him down, or is it the offensive scheme has kind of shifted? That's a
Or is
question
it
that
players whining about not getting the ball enough because it was going to him too much?
Yeah, but the stats, though, just to add some context, 6 for 66 in the first game, 6 for 126 and a touchdown the second, and then 1 for 10 and 2 for 44.
Yeah.
And today I think he had just 1 catch as well.
Oh, yeah. Today he had 1 for 3 yards.
Gosh dang.
Yeah,
needs to be more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, for me, he's our best receiver. And I think what's really frustrating about it is he fits Sam Neuer well.
Yep.
Short passes, creating
Slants.
space. He should be able to find Dimitri pretty often. And I'm sure defenses are keying in on him more, but he's athletic. There's no way he's open one time a game. I don't buy that for 1 second.
Yep.
All right. Do the Buffs know who their likely opponent is next week?
Nope.
Pac-12 doesn't know anything about anything.
Nothing
Copy
at
that, clip it, and use it as much as you want because it applies to just about every scenario.
Okay.
Just to reiterate, if one more game is canceled, though, of the 2 that are remaining, the Buffs would go to the Pac-12 championship.
And
Outside of that, we don't know what to expect.
to add on to that, USC can gain nothing from playing.
True.
So, I'm not encouraging them to
Catch COVID.
not catch it, but fake it. But I'm just saying there might be someone in there that's saying, well, Colorado just lost their best player to injury. We should maybe think twice about if we actually want to play if we have an out here.
Yeah.
Antonio's asking what bowl game are the Buffs going to get?
Another thing we have no clue
This
about.
hurt. They're now in territory where they do need to win next week, most likely. Because if there are only 4 bowl games for Pac-12 teams,
Who would the 4 that go over them?
let's see.
It'd be Washington, Oregon, and USC. Who else
Yep.
could you legitimately?
If UCLA won today at 4-2, the Buffs lose next week. They're 4-2 with one of the
See,
wins
do
out of
you have a
conference.
head-to-head?
we beat.
You do.
I
You do.
Yeah, I understand money is the ultimate deciding factor here, and it's LA, but that would be a mistake in terms of
Yep.
what we've accomplished this year for sure.
Agreed.
Is this game a different outcome if all of the Buffs drops are catches?
An interesting question. I don't think expecting all of the balls to be caught in any college football game is realistic.
It's no.
One where it's cold, definitely not, but I don't think that's enough
Well,
to change
most
things.
of them are in the first half.
Yep.
True.
Didn't affect the second half of the game really at all.
Again, it's just Nate Landman. Like, the drops don't affect Nate Landman, and that's why you lost the game.
Yep.
It felt like the third quarter, that meme where you're just plugging water coming out of the wall with your finger.
Something else.
Yeah. That's how the third quarter felt for this game.
Yep.
Like, you could see, and eventually it did happen where the dam just broke.
Exactly. Any more questions, Allie?
I am looking through.
Ooh, this is a good time to reiterate what Eric said. Hit the like button, subscribe, do the notifications, rate the DNVR Buffs podcast, do all of that kind of stuff because we really appreciate it. And if there aren't any more questions.
Oh, yes, we do.
Nice.
How different is this game with Brady Russell?
That's interesting.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think it changes. I don't think it completely changes the dynamic of the game. But when has Sam Neuer been playing his best ball? It's the first 6 quarters of the season with Dimitri Stanley and Brady Russell. Dimitri Stanley, he's been AWOL, and that's obviously not because of injury. That's because of any other reasons. But Brady Russell
could have an effect on that because he's another guy who takes up energy and attention in the middle of the field.
Yep.
Yeah, and he's Sam Neuer's safety blanket. I mean, quarterbacks love tight ends, and that could help because Sam's completion percentage today dropped to 50%, and obviously 0 for 6, 0 for 7 at the end of that was a little tough, but. What are you going on 4th and 5? Maybe that changes who you're looking to. Maybe you're using Brady Russell on a tight end tunnel screen more like they did in the Stanford game. I think it just opens up your playbook more and allows you to have more flexibility as far as a play caller. So in that way, it does affect the game, but I'm not sure his presence was specifically cited for the 17-point loss.
Yeah, I would say that he would. I think that his impact on this team is pretty consistently undervalued. I think that we saw Matt Lynch have a drop today, and I can't remember if they wound up scoring on that drive.
It was the play right before the dime touchdown.
Okay, so it wound up being fine. But you have stuff like that. But then more importantly in the running game, like he is your best lead blocker. He's the guy who you put in there. I know they put Jaylee Stacks at fullback last week a little bit. And it's like, if that's Brady Russell, you're getting a lot more accomplished. Plus, you can just play him at tight end. You don't even have to move him into the backfield, and you are going to win that block. And when you want to run the ball and when you are just almost good enough running the ball to just commit to running it over and over and over again, like the Buffs did in the last 2 games when they could just line up and bowl over their opponents, maybe that is the difference. Maybe if you were just a little bit better up front, you're able to be much more effective running the ball.
Yeah, I'm not sure it changes the outcome of this game specifically, but it's definitely impacting the program overall. I mean, as a defense going against us, it's much easier to not have to worry about the tight end at all.
And like I said, going back to that 4th down play, those linebackers in the middle are not only thinking about Dimitri Stanley being there, they're thinking about where's Brady Russell going to be, and that spreads them out.
Yep.
Cole Cook here saying Tyler has great points of discussion.
Sure does.
Peter saying, Tyler knows his Buffs-ish.
Check them out.
Boys.
Check out
Go.
the Free Ballin' podcast.
Do it.
Those guys have a lot of fun. Sometimes I join them, and I also have a lot of fun. So they're certainly worth checking out.
Oh, and then someone mentioned Ryan's shirt collection is, of course, on point once again.
Thank you.
This one might be my favorite one
Yeah.
yet because of how bad it is.
Okay. That's what I was
Oh, no,
saying.
absolutely.
Because of
Yeah.
how good it is. And artistic
my-
liberties, but
Feeling on a Buff shirt is the less likely anyone else is to like it or want it or buy it, the more I like it. So this one, I don't think I'm going to model it.
Are you sure you don't want to?
Yeah, it's not really my thing. But this one, if you see it, it doesn't say Buffs. It says Buff on the front. That's because for some reason it wraps around the back and says Lowe's on the back.
yeah, the S is in the middle of his back.
Why? No one knows. It's one of the worst design shirts I've ever seen, and it makes me love it that much more.
By far the worst thing about being my size is that I will never in the history of my life be able to find vintage T-shirts of Colorado. And
People weren't as large as you in
I
1993.
need somebody out there from the 80s that's my size that liked CU. Hit me up if you got some CU stuff in your closet. I need some gear.
I remember maybe it was 2 or 3 years ago we were going to a Buffs game and Ryan was really hyped on his shirt. And then he walked into the tailgate and saw Tyler wearing the exact same shirt and was just like,
and like 17 other people, and I've never worn it again.
So then that's when he started going online and buying the weirdest shirts possible.
Yep. No one else has this one.
Okay, someone asked, what do you think defense needs more to improve on?
Nate Landman. Realistically, I mean, honestly, yeah, it probably is another like linebacker because whenever we've seen either Akil Jones or Nate Landman go out, there have been some struggles. John Van Diest has patched the hole a little bit. Quinn Perry is a little bit less capable at this point of patching those holes. You need linebackers.
Question for you, Tyler, and you usually keep up on this stuff. How does the Buffs linebacker and tight end recruiting look in this upcoming class?
I mean, this class in general is tough. I mean, tight end wise, they're a little bit stronger. I mean, this incoming class, but I think you would obviously like to see improvement on both of those fronts for sure. Linebacker, there's some guys coming in, but it's, that's years away. You don't see freshman linebackers come in. So to me, that's a position where we have recruited JUCO guys in the past. It wouldn't shock me with there's only 1 or 2 scholarships left if we tried to fill in some holes.
Akil is JUCO, isn't he?
He was a JUCO player, yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've had a lot of safeties that have come out of JUCO. Kelly Witherspoon, Tedrick Thompson, maybe? No, he wasn't.
There was that one dude.
Aaron Maddox was. He's obviously gone now. Mekhi Blackman was a junior college player. A lot of the defensive guys. Mustafa Johnson was a JUCO player as well. I would say, though, honestly, that the defense isn't my main concern. I didn't think they played poorly today, really, especially without Nate.
So this person says, I'll be there next month. I play linebacker, Go Buffs.
Hey.
Let's go.
Thanks for
Nice.
watching the show.
Are you a good coverage linebacker?
Naya, give us a breakdown on
How
your
fast
side.
are you?
I need some film.
These guys are going to interview right on the spot.
Yeah.
All right, a quick yes or no for this one. Brady Russell back, I'm assuming, next year?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
back at
re-
school?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Peter saying
Exciting.
roll Tad. We're still the best school in the state. And then someone
no
asking,
debate there.
what does the running back situation look like next year? There's just so much talent there.
Different.
How are they going to get those? What are they going to do with these carries?
So we all know I'm a big Fontenot guy. So
Yep.
this is probably comes as no surprise to anyone. But I think Jarek and Fontenot really complement each other very well. I could see that being kind of a split carry situation. I know Jarek's numbers this year are insane.
Yep.
I think Fontenot's underrated. And the line this year is obviously
Second
impactful.
leading returning rusher in the Pac-12, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. I mean, he was almost a 1,000-yard rusher. I think Jaron Mangum had 600-some yards last year as well, right? So, I mean, split carries.
I put Jaron.
They're-
I think Jaron Mangum is a serious transfer candidate.
Right, I was
Yep.
just going to say that. I mean, there's not enough carries for all the guys in this room. We don't have a running back in this upcoming class, which is intentional, I'm sure. Yeah, there's not enough carries. So I think this is a situation where you could see somebody leave from that room. I'm not going to name names, but I would be shocked if everybody in the room was back next year.
Agreed.
Yep. And you obviously hope to hold on to Ashad Clayton, just because of how high his upside is.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'll make it
Stars.
obvious if I say what I'm going to say here. But, yeah, I mean, there are certain guys that you want to bring back for sure.
He gave us his Twitter and said Instagram and Twitter. Have a blessed day. Loved this live.
What
See
a
you
guy.
commit, just hanging out.
you're
That's
a nice
awesome.
You have a new
fan, so
friend.
I'm going to drop you with a follow.
Henry already
like
follows
Oh
him.
yeah. Oh, of course I do. Yeah.
Got a baby Henry
Yeah. Of course.
Way to be on top of your job.
playing
Hank.
the game
Yep.
the right way.
All right, those are all the questions I see.
All right.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for today. The Buffs will play next week. Well, knock on wood. There's COVID and it's the Pac-12 and all that kind of stuff. So there are no locks. If you're comfortable doing it, cheer for games to get canceled. If not, we'll see you in a game that is not the Pac-12 championship next week.